Hey, everybody. Welcome to another monthly event with the Brilliant Business Coalition. And we are here to talk about thought leadership. Does it really matter? Does it differentiate you? I am so excited to have this conversation. We have our all-star panel, as always, right? We have Amy Colette. She's the book alchemist, publisher, Unleash Your Inner Author, and she has a book coming out, which we're going to be excited to hear about in just a little bit. We have Krista Grasso, the CEO of the Strategy Ops Institute and the producer of the Lean Out Method podcast. And then we have Katie Nelson, the CEO of Sales Uprising, and a future author, an upcoming book of All Love, No Bullshit, the Sales Edition. And then we have Kelly Wagner, the publisher of The Edge magazine, but also the CEO of the Edge Network. The Edge magazine has over 15,000 readers, which is really exciting. And then I am Kim Woods, best-selling author and master astrologer and business strategist. And we are so excited to have this conversation today. So let's dive right in. Question of what exactly is thought leadership and does it really matter? And Amy, I'm going to go to you first.
Yes, I think thought leadership, it depends on how you define it and how you think about it. So I've heard these descriptions of thought leadership as being, leader in an industry. But I think what's more important, especially for us in this group and maybe the people listening, is that we're thought leaders in solving our clients' problems. In helping them have, in my case, it's in all of ours, I think it's helping people have more visibility, have a voice, have their message so that they can reach the people they want to reach. And so I think thought leadership is absolutely essential because there's so much, especially with AI out there now, that's being rehashed and rehashed. But we are thought leaders in the fact that we think a little bit differently. We have a unique perspective, and everyone does, right? I think it's more important than ever now to bring our unique perspectives, our passion, our purpose, and how we serve in the world to the stage of whatever that is, however you speak and are visible, whether it's social media or a physical stage or the pages of your book or your blog. It's more important than ever to get your message out.
Yeah, and so, does anybody else have anything they want to add before we widen the lens of what thought leadership could be?
I don't know that I want to add. Well, yes, I would love to add something. So I love everything that Amy said. If we take it back to a definition, so I do like to give a definition to everyone, the one that comes from a dictionary to give context. Thought leadership is the expression of ideas that demonstrate you have expertise in a particular field, area, or topic, right? So to Amy's point, for each one of us who are a business owner, or even if we are doing delivery to clients, like whatever our job looks like, how do we potentially insert that into our daily to communicate thought leadership, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, because the thing is, I love how we can expand this definition to be, I think in our mindset, we think of being on a big, huge stage or, being in front of a huge audience in some way, right? And expanding beyond our current audience. But there is thought leadership that can be very internal. If you're a business leader in an organization, maybe not an entrepreneur, you can look at thought leadership to be the captain of your division, right? Or the owner of a particular, method or the intellectual capital, go to, subject matter expert for a particular, process system, something like that. So I like to press into the definition too, Katie, because I do think it gives us context because I feel that the term thought leadership is overused and misunderstood.
I'll be honest, when it was first posed to me like 5 years ago that I needed to be this thought leader, I was like, no, I don't. I'm allowed to have thoughts and I'm a leader, whatever thought leadership is. Like, nobody gets to know all my thoughts. Don't make me put all my thoughts online, right? Like, what are you asking me? What exactly are you asking me to sign up for? What I think was my first thought. Like, what is that to you? What does that mean? Because you hear it all the time. It gets to be one of those buzzwords.
Right. No, exactly.
Add a little bit to the Go for
Oh,
it.
go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I have a title. I think people are so wrapped up in a title, and that title, whether it is personally or professionally, I just keep seeing so many people want to fake it till you make it. Which, oh my gosh, who doesn't? Like, right? Like, I mean, hello, my name is right. So many people get caught into that, but it's getting beyond that title and that authentic thought leadership. And it's the ones where you take your learnings, and then you get out into the real world, and then you get thumped on, and then you get thumped on again, and right, and then you come back and you pivot, and then you go to your tribe and you're like, okay guys, and it's that information, it's that marinating, it is that experiencing, and it's that coming back and saying, okay guys, I was just out there, I did this, I'm now back here, how do we do this, and play with it, and then regroup and come back. And I think it's that going over and over and over, and that repeat, and that learning, and that ability to listen, and that ability to go and just make I was going to say just ass out of yourself, and just stumble and fall, and then come up and brush yourself off and go, okay, that was a great learning. And being that student, being that teacher, being open, listening, talking, being a person, being curious. Hi, be curious, everybody. And I think that also helps. Okay, I just felt like I needed to interject that in the middle of the conversation, and I'm done.
I love that. And to me, thought leadership is literally a blend of every single thing that you've all said. I think it is very much that expertise and that knowledge on a subject, but I think it's our unique perspective on it. And I think we're all thought leaders, whether we identify with that title or not. We all have certain things that we know really well, and that we have enough lived experience and enough knowledge about, that we have our own unique thoughts, our own unique approach to. We know, because we've done it, that there is like, no, people should stop doing it this way. Why do they do that? We should do this, right? We all have those things that we inherently just know through that experience and through our passion and commitment for that thing that we know so well. That, to me, that's thought leadership. And I think really every single person is a thought leader in probably many different things, just not everybody identifies with or associates themselves with the title.
Yeah, I think so too. And I love how you framed that, right? Because we have a unique perspective. And that's really, I mean, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, after we talk about like what can thought leadership give you. But I love that. I want to just put a pin in that uniqueness, because I think that is a critical component of our conversation. But Amy, what does thought leadership do for people? Like what can it give them?
Well, what I think is so important about putting your thoughts out there, putting your voice out there, is so that other people can be encouraged, inspired, motivated by that, by your story. Because that's what is so compelling about thought leadership is, for the most part, we have to get our voice out there. We know it can help other people. So we are motivated ourselves to get our message out there with that burning desire to help other people. So I think that's really what thought leadership does. It elevates your voice and gives you more visibility so that you can serve other people.
Yeah.
I like the serving part. Right? So, shout out to V really quick. I just got a note. She's watching us. So, hey, V. I think that, so there's the concept of defining thought, and there's the concept of defining leadership. If all of us are thought leaders, who is in the audience to listen, right, is always a really interesting question to me. If we're all trying to rush the stage to have our voice heard, but no, I have these thoughts and I'm this leader for you and all of these things. So then it leads me down the rabbit hole of, okay, so if we're all thought leaders, are we all thought leaders for the same thing? Probably no. Let's hope no, because that's a really big rush of noise, right? And then so it's the concept of differentiating ourselves from the same exact thought leader in another space. And if we're saying it's our experiences that define us as a thought leader, and we have someone who's in competition with us or a competitor, right? Can we ever be competing for the same thought leadership? Tell me your ideas.
No, we can't. I was quick off the trigger on that one, Miss
I was
Katie.
gonna
You
say,
didn't even take a breath in.
You're not
You
even
just
gonna
what
argue
like you
it.
just like were like, woo.
Well, I
That was
Right. I'm not going
awesome.
to be arguing it. You all know how I feel about it, but I want to hear what you guys think.
I put a pin in unique. I put a pin in unique, right? And then Amy shoot it in with story. It's because it's based on our experience, right? So I think internally you all know that I believe that there is no such thing as competition, right? I believe that we are all threads of a tapestry, and each thread is different and has a different hue or texture or color, and then you put those together and you get this beautiful, gorgeous, picture, if you will, right? So, it is really interesting to me, Katie, because when you talk about rushing the stage, and if we're all in that thought leadership, then we do just become a broadcast community, right? Like, any one of us have been in groups where it's just broadcast, broadcast, broadcast. And you're right, there's no one catching, there's no one receiving. But if you look at the definition of leadership, leadership is both leading and following, and being really great at both.
So I love that, right? Somebody pull up the definition of leadership. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Danielle.
See,
Uh-huh.
love that. And I agree, right? I think that that's what makes it. I think that's why Amy would say everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a book in them, right, to put forward. And I don't even know, one of the things we don't necessarily talk about from a business perspective is all of the thought leaders in regular everyday life. Who are the people that you listen to in your non-business persona that are also leading you?
Right?
I mean, we always take it from a business perspective. We're all a bunch of business owners, right?
Yeah.
It's what we love to talk about. It's where we hang out the majority of the time. It's what enriches our life. It gives us balance and sometimes not balance, all of those things. But when we're talking about thought leadership, if we know that everyone has the ability to be a thought leader, where else do we get thought leadership outside of our business scenarios, outside of running our team in corporate, outside of owning the business, outside of being that amazing subject matter expert? Where else does thought leadership come into our life?
Yeah, I love that, Katie. Thank you for bringing that up, because we're talking about the audience of who we're speaking to, but who in that audience is also leaders for us. But it's like, just in our group here, we're all experts in different things. And so I think we're all leaders for each other in those areas. But just like the clients that I have, they come from all different walks of life. And one of my favorite things about doing the work I do is that I get to learn something from every single client that I work with. I learn their stories, but I actually gain knowledge from them. And it's a beautiful relationship where I get to teach them something and they get to teach me something.
I think that's beautiful. And I think that's what we all want to, the type of experience we want to have with our clients as well, right? I have a question for you, Amy. Do your authors consider themselves thought leaders?
Huh.
Yes,
You
they
know,
do. Yes, they do. Come on.
no,
Yes, they do.
well, I think it's an interesting question, because we talk sometimes about, when do you become an author? Is it during the writing process? Many of you are authors. Or is it after you become published? It's like really owning that title, owning that thing that I am an author. I'm creating this new thing that's never been out there in the world before. And I think thought leadership is very much the same, where you may be a thought leader in your industry, with your clients, with your unique perspective. But have you claimed that title, or have you stepped into that role?
You should have noticed everybody's eyes just went like that when you said that.
Because readiness is a thing, right? Like, not only does your business need to be ready, but you need to be ready. So people that have followed me for a while know that for me to come out of the closet as an astrologer was a big deal. And I pushed myself to, be on TV and to say things in small snippets because I am great under a half an hour scenario. I can talk about something and I'll ease my way into it. I am terrible at that first 30 seconds, that first minute, right? So I pushed myself to claim my, spiritual leadership, if you will, even though I don't use that as a title, that's what I was claiming from a content perspective by going live on TV in a 2-minute interview. It took me 14 hours to get ready for that first 2-minute interview.
Yeah.
Kim, I think we can all identify with that, right? And we have somebody online who's LinkedIn user, so I can't give you a shout out, but hey,
I
LinkedIn
love
user.
this.
So there's this amazing dissenting opinion. So I'm going to read it for everybody who may or may not have access to LinkedIn. I disagree. Not everyone is a thought leader, simply from the perspective that not everyone is a leader in their space. Thought leaders are people who have intentionally carved out a path of differentiation, which sings to the heart of this conversation. They are willing to do and say things that others are not, which puts them into a leadership role, differentiating them in the marketplace because they lead the thoughts and focus of everyone else in it. In my opinion, you have to be an innovator in some way in your space to be considered a thought leader. Oh, thank you, dear LinkedIn user. We do love a dissenting opinion. And there's
Please
so
let
much
us know who you are because that's magical.
No, just because it's just masked and restreamed. So if we were on, we'd probably be able to see it. But yeah, who wants to take that one first?
I do, because I made the comment that everyone's a thought leader, and I actually 100% agree with them if you're talking about it in a business context. I agree fully in a business context, but I think everyone's a thought leader in something in their life. But if I'm going to follow someone in business, I'm not going to follow the person who is not the leader in their industry and is not saying something different, because why bother, right? To me, if I'm going to pay attention with the precious limited time that I have, it better be to somebody who's saying something different and interesting and that actually I want to listen to and learn from. And so I fully agree from a business perspective. But I actually think that everyone is a thought leader in their own things. And there are people in their lives who are listening to them, and there are people in different facets that are. But yeah, I agree from a business. So curious to hear what you all think.
Oh, thank you, Alyssa. We appreciate you.
What do you all think?
She let us know she's not so random. Her name is Alyssa. I'm calling in from Colorado. So when you were talking, Krista, what it made me think of are the people in my life who are leaders may or may not know it. So then when we think about thought leaders and the concept of I do this specifically for differentiation, my niece would never say she's a thought leader, right? But I listen to her, but she doesn't do it on purpose. And the things that I listen to her, she's the expert at being 18 years old right now. I'm very far removed from that. I'm certainly not going to understand anything like that the kids are paying attention to. So for me, her life is a thought leadership exercise when she chooses to communicate with me about it. But whether or not, I think there is something to be said about, does she see herself that way? Can you be a thought leader without intentionally trying to be? And is that what this conversation is about?
Yeah, because I think the same thing with leadership too, because, I press people to say that you are the leader of your own life, right? But we have this terminology, this understanding, this appreciation of leadership of being the leader of a band of something, a band of people, an organization, a company, an industry, a niche, right? So, but I do love this part of the conversation because I do think that is a really interesting point to fine tune, because if we take thought leadership and say, does it differentiate you? I think it needs to be intentional first. I think that's the first step. So if it's intentional for you, what are you looking to get out of it? I mean, credibility, sharing your ideas, inspiring others, making impact, telling your story, becoming a trusted advisor. I mean, like all these things we can think about, that those who choose intentionally to become a thought leader is someone who will be seeking to write a book, have a podcast, do live events, create a stage, lead their organization, get promoted, like all of those things, because they want to put themselves in a position where they have that sphere of influence.
This conversation's so interesting because when I think about non-business thought leaders, my mom honestly is one of the biggest thought leaders I've ever known. She was a teacher. She was rated like the best teacher, whatever that award is, like multiple times. She still has students, even 20 years retired, that reach out to her to like keep in touch with her. I feel like she was such a big thought leader, and she would have not only never seen herself as a thought leader, but she would have actively pushed against it. She was one class away from getting her PhD, and she intentionally didn't do it because she didn't want the title. And so it's really interesting, this conversation, because to me, she was very much a thought leader and I saw the influence she had on others, but she did not consider herself one and she never wanted to be one. It was just who she was as a person. It's really interesting.
I think that's super interesting because I don't think we talked about thought leadership in the same way we deem it now, right? So now it's one of those amazing buzzwords. It's what you could, should, and would do if you want to be successful in business, all those horrible words that we associate with things. But one of the things I think is so interesting that you said, Krista, is regardless of business, non-business, intentional, non-intentional, it has to do with influence, right? Was she just being an amazing human on purpose, or just trying to support her clients, right, her students in that world? Or was she purposefully trying to generate influence to inform a decision, inform a way of being? So how much is thought leadership about wanting influence for a thing?
Well, I'm going to throw parenthood into the mix.
Oh, golly.
No, seriously, because think about it. If you are talking about a sphere of influence, think about, I'm just going to non-business this for a few minutes, right? Think about a parent, think about a community leader or a volunteer. Think about someone who steps up to sponsor a local baseball team. Think of someone who picks up a sign for, some sort of rights, like trash or climate or what have you, right? Like, I don't think that we would ever deem the term associated with that to be thought leadership. But if we're talking about influence, because we can talk about different types of thought leadership and impact, right? Because there are different energetic flavors of that. Interesting to note: trusted advisor, paradigm shifter, activist, what? All those things.
I think
And
those
can
go
you
with,
share those 5 types? Because I think that's really fascinating. And to me, that's actually more meaningful than the term thought leader, because I feel like it starts to put it into some really relatable categories.
Yeah. So, and I can do this energetically if you want. So like a thought leader is someone who stands in their ideas, right? In their expertise and their knowing. And they say to people, come to me, come to my stage, come to my book, come to my podcast, come to me, and I'm going to share my ideas, right? That's the way I see it. So it's very much, it feels to me like very much like brick and mortar, kind of like very solid and strong. And then when I think of a paradigm shifter, I think of someone who's looking to change some things, like looking at something in an industry or niche or a field or even within a company and saying, okay, this is what's okay, but I'm looking to shift it. So I'm going to take something in the future, something that's not known, and I'm going to just weave it and wend it in a different way. Then there's like that advocate activist, like this is wrong. Like this actually will not stand. Like what we are doing to, minorities or in the political sphere or to the climate or to, something in a community, like this will not stand. That has a very, like big microphone kind of thing, gathering some people and getting them on board. And then there's the influencer. Like, I think we can even use the term influencer when we're thinking about things online or micro influencers that are more in that celebrity type. I, of which am a terrible one. Like, I can influence nothing in this way, right? Because it's like basically Pied Piper energy where like I say something and people don't even care what it is. And then they're like, oh my God, I'm going to buy shoes from this person. I'm going to buy hand lotion, but I'm also going to buy like this program because this person said it was so fabulous. Why are you buying it? I don't know, because she said, it's more in that persona, that person. And then there's the trusted authority, which I think is where the closest to thought leadership that we're talking about, where I have those those thoughts, those ideas, and those experiences, but I'm going to like then take action to elicit trust, work with clients, impart some knowledge in a different way, tell my story, like be more in that reciprocity and action oriented position. But that's the way I see this sphere of influence and the different energies of it.
I think that's a great, we're always, amongst the five of us, we're always looking for context and like better ways to define things. And, there's not a single one of us that doesn't love to play with words in every way possible. I do want to say, to the point of like competition, Peggy made a great point online about how she had 5 separate thought leaders on her team, right? They had their own experience, and when they all got together, it was explosive, and it was a very synergetic relationship. So I think that is a beautiful statement on collaboration versus the competition of, we can't all rush a stage. We can all be thought leaders at exactly the same time. So Kim, I'm really curious, although I'd like to hear from Amy and Kelly too, what in all of the descriptions that Kim was giving us about thought leaders, and I kind of agree, I think where we're playing in this space, in this conversation, is under trusted authority. As she was talking, could you actually identify an advocate authority, for example, in your own life, and where you paid attention to them? Like, what came up for you when she was walking through those definitions? Don't all go at once.
No, I have a client who is she has a movement for how older women are seen and treated in our society. And she's definitely, putting the stake in the ground of like, this is wrong, this needs to change, let's get after it, let's get on board, let's do these things. And it's really, it's really inspirational to the people who are also passionate about that topic. And so, yeah, it's very magnetic, and it goes back to all the things that we've been talking about, which is the audience, because there are a lot of thought leaders in similar spaces. Even like Kelly and I are both in publishing in different ways, right? And we serve a lot of people. We have a lot of overlap, I think, in the kinds of things we do. But we each have a different perspective. So we speak to our own audiences, and those, I think, all those different types also speak to their own audiences within their niche, and stand tall in their thought leadership. But I think it takes all of those different types to really bring our thoughts to the world, bring our influence and impact.
So I'm going to ask a little bit of a different question, playing on Katie's question. What type of thought leader, if we're going to use it under that sphere, the sphere of influence, what type do each of you feel that you are?
Perspective shifter.
Paradigm shifter.
Yeah.
Whatever, that one.
Yeah, paradigm shifter too. What's there, and I'm going to shift to like come to it. I'm combining astrology with business. I don't think that I could say anything else. Right?
I'm combining the ideas of love and sales, which I think everybody goes, so yeah, these are things that most people don't put together necessarily.
Right. They're all intuitive visionaries. Just want to note that. And they're
right.
most typically in paradigm shifters. Yeah.
Well, I think we also have 2 trusted authorities, right? So we've got 2 loving alchemists on this call, who would be the trusted authority. And I would put you guys in that category. Do you identify with that? Right.
Absolutely. I was just looking at everything and doing a little mini check-in, and I think a trusted authority also could be an influencer, or is an influencer. I think a trusted authority can ignite someone's desire to be an advocate or a disruptor.
I agree. You're right, Kelly. Yes. So I think that in their own way.
I was trying to be in a box, and I'm like, but I'm not in a box. I'm a little bit of magic everywhere. But right. but I'm not. I wouldn't say that I'm an advocate where I'm like, let's save the world. But then I'm like, let's save the world. So it's really weird. I mean, I'm not going to go get a parade, but I kind of want a parade. I mean, so it's like one of those kind of things.
Oh, I wrap you in love, my friend. I'll be in your parade. Let me know when that is. So I think that, to Kim's point, each individual type has its own type of influence. To borrow a word from Amy, I think that they all have their own magnetism, and that's created from whatever's in us, right? Which also helps make us, I think, differentiation. Oh, who's that?
It's the
No,
aliens are coming
is
in.
there
They
something
want to
on?
be
Oh,
part of our conversation.
we let somebody on stage. That I was so
Outside.
excited.
No, I had someone who was really super helpful voxering, and I was like, I can't listen. You need to type right now.
Don't worry. Hi, Priscilla. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I love our support system. They're amazing. But can you differentiate yourself without trying to differentiate yourself? And my answer to that would be yes, because you're you, right? So back to Krista's original thought of we're all thought leaders. I don't know if that's true. It could be true. I happen to think kind of yes. But I think that there's automatic differentiation by the way that we choose to communicate, how we choose to put ourselves forward. This can even go into the idea of your brand and whatever that looks like. Or if you don't have to have a brand because you're a niece and not looking to have a brand, it just shows up in the things that you're interested in, who you hang out with, what you're attracted to in any perspective, right? So these are the things that differentiate you. I think it is the communication about those things that is the most important thing when it comes to how we want to show up in thought leadership. What do you guys
I
think?
think the two different things with what we study and what we train for, and then what we're living. And the example that's coming to me right now is I'm having a lot of people in my world transition, and they're just leaving the planet. And a lot of friends that are losing parents, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're the adults. Oh my goodness. I can't just call my mom and dad, or I just can't call my aunt and uncle. And so I'm watching this, and I feel that my parents are close as well. So I'm watching. It's almost like I have like a front row seat to the stage, and I'm learning this, and I've studied it, and then I have the clients, and I'm just on the verge of living it. And then I know that once I live it and I lose both of my parents, which I know I have a feeling it's going to happen very soon, I'm then going to be in a club that I didn't want to be a part of. And then I'm going to all of a sudden be living something that I've studied. And I don't know if I said that right, but there's just that or it's like someone that wants to be pregnant. I want to be pregnant. I want to be pregnant. And then they get pregnant and they're like, oh, whoa, this is different than I thought. And then it's like, haha, the first year sucks. It really does. And then wait, we're not even going to tell you that. Guess what happens in year 2, and then 3, and then 18, and then right.
Let's not scare all the people away from pregnancy and children.
That's a side conversation, right? And there's times where you just want them to go back. Just go back.
So Amy, I have a question, and it probably for Kelly too, right? Because you're in the publishing industry, right? So you might run into this more. I know for my people, it's very much about being visible, like being able to say and claim like their voice, their power, their own expertise, and really wear it and own it. But are you finding that there are like waves that happen that people feel a little bit more apt to do that? Do you think that it's individual by person? Do you think that there's a certain type of person? Is there a stage in their life, a stage in their business? Are you finding any sort of patterning in there?
I'm seeing full spectrum, but I'm going to let Amy go first.
Yeah. What comes to mind, Kim, is it's not necessarily a stage of life or whatever. It's more, I want to say the germination of their passion or their mission, right?
So that was super tasty.
Okay, so let me dive into that a little bit more.
The germination of their
Germination.
thought.
That just came right in.
Well done.
Thank you for wherever that came from. Germination of their passion. And what I mean by that is that someone has gone through a transformation and it's changed their life. Obviously, that's transformation. They're different now. They feel different now. And now they're compelled to bring that message to the world. So it doesn't matter. It can be when a person is 30 or 50 or 75 or whenever it happens. It's not really, to me, tied to a separate stage. I've had people in their 20s, get to that point and feel like they really needed to bring their message to the world, as well as folks in their 80s, have written their first book and become an author in their 80s. And I love this because it's just like, okay, I cannot wait anymore. I have to be visible, even if I'm reluctant personally to be visible and to step into this thing called thought leadership and being an author/authority. But I have to be, because I just can't hold back this message anymore. It has to get out there.
I love that. I love that. That's because what you do, you're inviting people to be at that readiness. What I do, I talk about getting people aligned with their soul life mission, right? So like that is a little bit different. They may be ready, they may not be ready. They want to make big impact. And we talk about the different ways that they can do that from a practical perspective, which we're going to get into in a few moments, but from that energetic one too. Like, what is your energy yearning for? Because I love that. Someone who's 80 or someone who's 20, right? They have different energy levels. They have different probably ideas about what they want to do in order to bring that about, right? That's fascinating. Okay.
It's interesting. Right now, I have a client that we're putting together a email, digital, different campaign for. He's barely human. I'm just going to say it in a really beautiful way, and I honor him for it. I really, really do. So he wants to put, for example, an email campaign. And we all know that when we receive an email, you have about, 3 seconds to get someone's attention. The Word doc that he sent me with all his information was 32 pages. He wants to be I honor him. Again, I honor him in every way, shape, or form. So it's almost the other extreme. And how do you grab the attention and then invite people to learn more? Oh no, he wants to just throw it all out in this one email. And I mean, 32 pages, friends, 32 pages, please. That's very hard to do that. But I mean, good for him. He's putting his shoulders back. He's published all these books and this and that. And oh my goodness. So there's that extreme, the 32 page Word doc.
That sounds like an entire magazine issue.
It was. I was like, so is this a series? Is this 2024 and 2025? He's like, no, this is one email. Okay, great.
I look at it as an ebook, but fine. We can maybe we can shift perspective on that, because here's someone who is a bountiful and prolific, right? If he's authored many books, he has a lot of things to say. I want to throw in AI right in the middle of this conversation.
Oh gosh.
This conversation, AI. So how does everybody feel about taking the conversation about thought leadership, original ideas, and AI?
Well, I have so much to say about this. I let other people talk first.
It's all good.
Go ahead, Krista.
Okay. Well, to me, where I see a lot of people honestly damaging their brand and losing me for sure, if I get, the in the bustling world of entrepreneurship email from anybody, it's an instant unsubscribe. But I think too many people are leveraging AI straight out of the box, and they're losing their thought leadership. They're losing their unique voice and their unique perspective. And they're just going out and saying, write me an article about X. And I really think that it's watering things down and it's damaging things. And it's something that even Google is about to, or already penalizing brands for doing, which I'm honestly pretty darn happy that they're doing that, because I think it encourages people to really focus more on their own original IP. But that being said, where I think AI can be valuable is not AI created content, but I call it AI enabled. And so if you take the time to, for example, create your own custom GPT, if that's what you use, if you use ChatGPT, and you're only feeding it your own words and your own thought leadership, and you're having it create and pull and maybe make that 32-page document into a concise and compelling short form, 400 word or less email, right? Like taking and only pulling from your unique voice and your unique content, I think it can be incredibly valuable. There are certain tools that I use that take my audio, what I say on my podcast and what I say in my team, and help turn it into really incredible content. And I think AI can support us with thought leadership, but only if we're feeding it our voice and our thoughts. AI takes away from our thought leadership if we're having it pull from the general collective and just create content that anybody could go in and create that's not representing us.
Yeah. And my whole thing too, Krista, you know this about me too, is that, but being mindful about where you're dumping your own creative thoughts, right? Because, if you're doing it from a podcast perspective, you're already saying, this is mine. I have the copyright for it. And it is going into the public domain if your podcast is public, right? Same thing if you have an article, in a blog or something like that, right? So your intention is, I am going to share this content with others. This is shareable. It's not secret. It's not a trade secret. It's not something I'm holding dear. It's not my secret sauce that I don't want anybody to know. It's shareable content. Because you've taught me how to do it, right? Like I too have benefited from being able to pick out the top 3 facts or something, because I'm too steeped in the information. Like the gentleman who wrote 32 pages, we know too much. It's really hard for us to say 1, 2, 3. So if you can have a beautiful, almost like a researcher going through and saying, oh, this is one, this is one, this is one. It's like, whew. But then also too, what I do is then take it and say, but now I'm going to put this in my own words. Thank you so much for the prompt. Thank you so much for the idea. But now it came from my own words. You've selected some things for me. Now it's in my own words again. And I think that's a totally different thing.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Katie. She's like,
bubbles are like over, and then she caught it, and then it was like almost out.
So I'm not going to go too into the idea of singularity. For those of you who don't know what it is, feel free to look it up. I find it to be super complicated and really simple all at the same time, but I would love to throw this out. What is your definition of original thought?
ooh, yeah, mine's channeled from the universe. So it may or
Well,
may.
how convenient for you. No, I'm joking. I guess that's a conversation stopper. No, I mean, literally though. And if I would even put forward, if channeled from the universe, is it your original thought?
I agree with you, right? So I agree with you. It just doesn't exist anywhere on Earth yet, right? So maybe it existed 10,000 years ago. I call it that ancient wisdom, that tapping into the remembrance of you, right? So I do know for sure, if I cannot design a 48-page card deck and write a 140-page guide in a week under my own steam, that cannot happen. I did not log in anywhere. I channeled this. Right.
And it's super in depth. Like for those of you who are into decks and oracle cards and tarot cards, like I own Kim's deck. I have lots.
On the ready. On
yeah,
the ready, everybody.
100%. Card of the week is merge. Go look. Mine's down.
Everybody, hold them up. Just do it.
This was not a plug. I was not.
No.
But I failed the city. Mine's downstairs because I was playing with it earlier this week. But yeah, so I totally get that. Right. I absolutely understand that. You guys, look, I live in a sales world. Like my expertise is in sales and business. This is the thing that I love. Is there an original idea? I get really uncomfortable with the idea of innovation in a selling space, right? AI actually has the ability to support. I loved what Krista said, AI enabled versus like AI supportive, right? AI informed.
AI created. Yes. I think we want to avoid AI created, but be all about AI enabled.
Yes. Right. So the idea that all information is available to us at all points in time. If I wanted to learn something new, I could put in a Google prompt, even before the big conversation of AI, and learn about something new. Like, what are my own original thoughts? How much time does it take to create an original thought?
It was really interesting. I just watched a show on the music of coming out of Laurel Canyon in the 60s. Right. So that was the mamas and the papas. And like everybody was the Beatles, the Stones, or like all this. And I guess what they would do is a lot of these groups were renting homes in Laurel Canyon, and then they'd go in and they were recording all at the same time. So Friday night, and they're just riffing and playing and doing all of this, and then this would show up in somebody's song, and then this would show up in another person's song, and they were like, and then now with all the copywriting and you grab this sample and you grab that sample, they were like, we just kind of like let it all flow. And it was really, really interesting to watch how they were talking about this. And now, like, even if you grab, I forgot, like Vanilla Ice pulled because I'm not seeing it, a sample, and then he had to pay all this money for this, and this. And it's even interesting in the realm of music on what's original thought and what's not.
Oh, that might have been White Lines, right? From David Bowie. I think I know that story.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just and they could have been in just full channel and just feeling it, and this just felt right. But could you imagine being at a party on a Friday night and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones are there and the Mamas and the Papas and everyone just kind of grabs something and just lets it flow, and then they go record on Monday because they're inspired, and all these different people hear the same thing and then go put their own mix on it. It's just kind of interesting.
I'm getting chills, Kelly, because that's beautiful. But I think, Amy, you probably you started this with your own story. I mean, I think that was intentional when you said, my authors are telling their own story.
Right.
That's got to be original thought.
Well, yeah, and that's why I kind of love and hate these conversations about AI, because I'm really think very similarly to you, Krista, about it. I think over time, and you're starting to see this trend now with people wanting to get off of the screens. We're on screens all day long, whether it's the computer, the phone, the television. It's even in our cars now. It's everywhere, and people want that more real feel. Even people of all ages prefer a print book because they like the experience. It's different. Yes, or a magazine. So we love that tactile. It's a different experience than an electronic reading experience. Not that electronic is any less valuable, but it's just a different human experience. And so, yeah, to come back to story, I think it's going to be more and more important for us to have our authentic voices, to say our authentic thought leadership in that real way that sounds like us, that's, sounds like Kim. You use the word luscious, and everybody has their own phraseology and cadence and tempo and all that stuff. And that's absolutely magic because it's human and it's the way we connect as humans. Now, I'll also have to say, one of the hardest things about writing a book is coming up with a book description. And AI is a great tool to help with that. You feed the book into AI and ask it to, do its magic and come up with a description. Of course, you want to take that and make it your own. But those kinds of things, titles for workshops, all those sorts of things are fantastic uses for AI as a conversation starter, as a thought starter. When you already have the idea, but you need to be able to describe
Polish it. I like it as polished. Yeah. I like to greet and then go, okay, this, and then it will come up with some things you're like, oh, okay, but it's totally mine.
Yes.
In Kelly speak, and then it just kind of goes whoop. I just keep seeing polish. And if
sometimes you just need that powerful verb or whatever, and AI will come up and it just finishes it for you.
Thank you.
So,
and I'm gonna throw a little wrench in that because
awesome.
Yeah, no, because I feel I'm a little bit mad at AI because AI is taking words away that I use constantly and
like luscious,
like delve, like unlock. There's like 5 words I'm like can't use that anymore. Compelling, provocative, like there were words.
It's my favorite word ever.
Yeah, so I'm like, so literally, because think about this. My work is, it's very deep, right? So I would say we're going to delve deeply. Cannot say that anymore because delve is now an AI word, right? So we're going to have this whole list of AI words that are now just trash that we can't use.
Oh gosh,
I'm a bit mad.
Look, help us to start. Well, you guys are going to have to send me the list of AI words because obviously I don't use AI or like whatever that. I don't even know what that means, Kim. Delve is a word out of the dictionary. Right? Like, I don't know what you mean. Now it's an AI word. But I will say the overriding conversation that I hear about AI from all of you reminds me of something that Mr. Rogers said, and which is really strange, right? And that's look for the helpers. So what I'm hearing you say is that AI can be a helper in the way that Mr. Rogers meant it.
Yeah.
How's
Yeah.
that for original thought, Amy? Mr. Rogers and AI. I wonder if it's been done before. Somebody
I love it. But I want to make a comment. I want to make a comment about Kim's AI words. And that is, I would invite us all to not give over our power of words to AI. I mean, I get it that it might be overused or whatever, just like thought leadership is, but also so is the word positivity, and we talk, but it still means something. It's still a word that has value, that means something. Yes, we can pair it with other things to give it more power or to make it more meaningful. But I think once we start giving over our power, like, oh, that's an AI word, then we're lost, because it's the way we put them together in that unique way. Just like you do always, Kim, you have your unique way of putting things together. Don't stop that. Keep owning your own language.
All right. So
I love that.
I'm going to wait it out. Thank you, Amy, for that. I'm going to wait it out because I do feel, and this is a subject for a different matter, because we want to do our fourth topic and meet our promise for the delivery of this live. I do feel like people are punching above their weight with AI. So that's a subject for a different.
Oh, girl.
Ooh.
And language is one of them. Language is one of them. I'm just going to say it. I have an extremely rich vocabulary, and I'm feeling not heard so much from that richness because there are other people having rich vocabulary when they wouldn't normally have it. Boom, I'm saying it. But we can't pursue that topic today. We need to shelve that to get back to the...
Thank you, Carla. I'm going to say thank you, Carla. She said, what a fun and thought-provoking discussion. We are always going to try and provoke thoughts. Kim, for that next discussion, I'm going to point out to you that maybe you should quit listening to everybody else and only listen to you. Like, go back more in your bubble. Like, maybe the reason you're not being heard is because you're paying too much attention to, you live in the comment section, as the kids say, things that I learn. Quit living in the comment section, to Amy's point, own your own stuff. Just saying, we can discuss all that later, though.
I am back in my trunk.
I love that. Okay, so what's on docket next?
So the ins and outs of different thought leadership tools. And so we're going to have Amy tee this off, then Kelly, because they're in the publishing world. And so and Krista has much more experience in the podcast world than I do. So I'm going to defer this part of the conversation, and just any tips, ins, outs, like any really yummy things that you want to share about each one of those things.
I'll jump in because, of course, I'm a big believer in books, and books hold a lot of weight. They carry a lot of weight in terms of credibility, visibility. I know for speakers, it's absolutely helpful to them to have a book because of PR opportunities, speaking opportunities, and just they're considered an expert. A lot of people say they're going to write a book, but very few actually do it, even speakers, surprisingly. So those who do really get elevated as an expert. And once you're published, those of you who have published books know that when people find out you're an author, sometimes you get that, that sort of, ooh, you're an author? It's very interesting, but it's still a thing. Now, I think it goes back to authenticity too. You do you, whatever's right for you. If you love to write, you love to create content that is best put out there in a book, then do that. If it's more podcasting, like podcasting so far has not been my thing. I know it could probably help me, but it's just not my thing right now. But I know other people, lots of other people have podcasts, love podcasts. And then we have magazines and stages. So Kelly, I'll pass the baton to you.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, this is so funny. I just received this. I'm a part of Deb Drummond put this mission accepted with 262 entrepreneurs, creatives, and media. And I have a chapter in there, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. And I just kind of had it here. And when you were talking about being published, I just was like, yeah, it is kind of cool that I'm a part of this. And it is cool to have a magazine. And I do get a lot of people, I will say, either that say they want to have a podcast or they want to be an author. And they're like, I've got the story. I want to do this. I want to do this. And it's honoring that. And it's, here's what's coming in is, so it's inviting people to the table, and then now what? And then knowing that having a chair at the table for discussion, there's 25 people behind that would love your seat. So get invited to the table, and then what are you going to do to earn your chair and stay there? That just came in. Have no idea. Maybe that's another conversation.
Wow.
Bam.
So, Krista, have you reached 200 episodes yet? You're close.
I'm so close. I'm so close. I think I just recorded 189, but it's been 3 years, right? And I was doing the math the other day, and I have sent 1 to 3 newsletters every single week since 2004. So that is a whole lot of newsletters.
Happy 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
If you think about it, though, right, that newsletter gets sent and it probably gets filed away in somebody's inbox and never seen again and never thought of again. The podcast episodes that I put out there, I still have people that listen back to the first episode or early episodes that I released 3 years ago. And I think kind of like a book, something about the podcast, about the book, you're putting something out there in perpetuity. It's out there kind of forever unless you take it down. And to me, I feel like that just lends itself a little bit differently in a thought leadership context. It's like you believe enough in whatever it is that you're saying that you put it in print, or you recorded it and you put it out into the world for strangers to read and strangers to listen to. And there's just something about that that I think really does lend itself from a thought leadership perspective. And I know for me, I could talk all day long. So podcast works really well for me. It's the medium that fits me well. Just like Amy, for you, books is probably the medium that fits you well. And I think that we all just need to figure out what our medium is. There's no one that's better than another. It's just, where do we get to express ourselves and show up and share our thought leadership in a way that not only works for us, but that meets kind of our audience and what they need for what they want to hear from us.
Yeah, I do. I love that, because that's the thing. It comes back to, there's that authenticity piece. Like, what is authentic for you? Like, I say to people that are around me, can you do this 1,000 hours a day? And that's an absurd statement. But like, you think about it, and I was just in a group that Katie happened to be in. We were in a group together the other day, and I had said that comment, and I had put an example of, like, I do the weekly forecast every Monday morning, right? It happens to be part of her podcast now, but it wasn't before. And when the woman gave me the idea, it was a client who gave me the idea. I thought, this is a great idea. Can I do this forever? Is this something that I'm going to want to keep doing? Because consistency, right? Because it's a thing. It's like a half an hour. I have to do it. I channel it. I record it. I do all the things, and it's like a block of time. Can I do that every week? Yes or no? Do I want to do it every week? Yes or no? Does it fit in with my brand? Does it serve me? Will it serve my audience? Like, these are the criteria that you want to ask yourself as you're thinking about stepping into conveying your expertise in whatever way you want to do that. So that's what my invitation to people listening is: do you. You do you.
Well, and there's power in saying no.
What was that?
There's power in saying no.
Yep, true.
Mm-hmm. I always say, you do you, boo. It's 1 minute tell. I think everybody here knows that how I choose to be a thought leader is on stages and through speaking. It's my favorite way to do it. Although, yes, I have been a guest on podcasts, and I have a book coming out. So everything is available to you. And I think what I heard most is that you just get to be intentional about where you show up. It's all available for you. Pick your flavor. Go be brave. You are a thought leader in your expertise for your thing. You can choose to put it out there, or you don't have to. Right. You have the ability to be a thought leader in your own life and for the people that are in your life regardless.
Absolutely. And Amy, you have a book coming up. Are you going to share details?
Yes, today's actually my official launch day. Yay! I know, exciting. So here it is in printed format. I'm actually releasing it first as an ebook, just so that it's accessible to everyone, so that people can actually get that book out of their head and onto the page. So,
So,
yes.
so you're going to go back into the comments here and you're going to tag us in your posting and you're going to splash everywhere. You have a big splash coming, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And you and I should
Yes,
talk
and it will be
offline.
ongoing. You'll all get sick of seeing the book and hearing me talk about it.
Never.
Never.
Thank you for your support.
Sure thing. Okay, that's yet another month of our conversation about the hot topic of the month. Next month, we're going to be talking about getting freedom in your business through sales. What? So until next time, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.